Hi, it's Tuesday night at 6:30, so it's time again for What We're Reading. I'm very excited tonight to have a member of KDL's Board of Trustees, Caitie Oliver. Wave, Caitie. Caitie brought a friend, speech pathologist and entrepreneur, Tommy. Wave, Tommy. Tommy and Caitie know each other as educators. I'm using that term. So they're going to have lots of great kids' books to recommend tonight. So I'm really excited about that. And but I'm going to ask Caitie first. What does it mean to be a board of trustee member or a trustee?
Oh, yeah. So for Kent District Library, our board of trustees are all appointed from the county commissioners. So I applied, I filled out an application online and I had an interview. But what I get to do is I go to a meeting once a month. And we kind of hear what's going on with the library. We talk about financials. We talk about new initiatives and construction. What's going on with Mission Read or different projects throughout Bookmobile, so different projects throughout the KDL system. And we approve certain things, like when we went fine free, it was a board approval that we had to vote for.
That's
Yeah,
right.
one of my favorite things I've ever voted for. And so we got to vote for that. We have to approve when branches close for different things. So like there's the what would I say, the more business aspect to it.
Right.
But then there's also the fun aspect where we got to make things fine free. And I also, we have the literary libations coming up on the 16th of September. I get to go to that.
Nice.
I know. And then I also report back to my townships, my municipalities. So for me, it's Lowell Township, Vergennes Township, Bone Township, and then the city of Lowell. So I report back to them once a year about how things are going with KDL and why it's such an amazing thing for their municipalities to participate in.
And we are so lucky to have you on our board. Thank you, Caitie. You are fabulous and an educator. You're a
Yes.
teacher now?
I'm actually a school social worker. So
Oh, that's right.
How I like to tell people is I don't teach kids how to do math because I should never teach kids how to do math. I teach kids about how to get along, how to make friends, what to do when you're fighting with a friend, how to manage those big emotions. So I'm teaching kids social skills and emotion regulation, while the other ones are teaching math because I should have nothing to do with that.
Well, that's very important. And Tommy, you teach kids how to speak properly. Is that right?
I'm a speech language pathologist. Actually, Caitie and I worked together in GRPS a couple of years ago. That's how we know each other. I no longer work for the schools, but I do plenty of educating in my private practice. I help kids and adults learn how to communicate better, more efficiently, and just overall have a better communication skills, et cetera, et cetera. So
It must be so rewarding to see their progress.
it's the greatest. It's absolutely lovely. One of the blessings and curses of being a person who works with small children, people who are working on different skills, Caitie can attest to this, is eventually they're going to leave you. Eventually they're going to do really well, and then they're not going to be with you anymore. It always bums me out, but it's a good thing in the end. So.
I'm so glad to have you both here. But of course, it's my show, so I have to ask a question now. And I'll start with Tommy because you're next to me. Tommy, what are you reading?
Okay, so I took this from the speech language pathologist perspective, and I thought I'd bring in a couple of books that I like to use with my kiddos during therapy. So we have a couple of those. So I'm going to start with one that was actually recommended to me by a speech pathologist friend of mine named Lauren. It's called I Talk Like a River by Jordan Scott and Sydney Smith. Jordan Scott was himself a person who stuttered. And so this book kind of goes through a kiddo's day. He is a stutterer. It goes through the different emotions he feels, and in the end, how his father helps him feel supported and validated. It's fantastic. The illustrations are magical. Michiganders are really going to get down with this. There's a lot of nature. And it's just a beautiful story. And so I really recommend it to anybody who has a kiddo who stutters, to anybody who stuttered themselves, or anybody who's just, interested in learning about new things or just likes to read in general, please read that book. It's great.
I can't imagine how frustrating that must be for the kiddos to do that. How does the book help them deal with that?
So there's this wonderful analogy. The kiddo has a hard day at school. He couldn't get his words out. Dad takes him out to the woods and they go to a river. And Dad says, when we talk, we all speak like a river. Sometimes it's smooth, sometimes it's crashing, and you talk like a river. So the child is able to kind of take that and use that as like an empowerment statement. So he's able to carry that with him to school and feel more confident during the school day. So it's wonderful.
Oh, hold that one up again.
Tearjerker.
I know.
I talk like a river. Jordan
If you have a kiddo that needs that, go get it right this minute.
Yes.
Yes.
Do.
Okay, Caitie, I'm going to bug you now. We're going to bounce back and forth. What have you got for us?
So the book that I wanted to start off with is a book that I love this author. The author is Diane Alber, and she has a whole series. So I will show you the first one here. It is called A Little Spot Wears a Mask by Diane Alber.
Oh,
so
that's about wearing a mask to school.
Yes. So since here in Kent County, we have the K-6 mask mandate. This is a great one to either read with your students or read with your kiddos at home, so that like if they're not used to wearing a mask, like kindergartners maybe, or they haven't been wearing a mask, getting them back ready to do that, wearing a mask and why. And I really, again, I love the illustrations. They're just kind of fun, cartoony. It explains the right way to do it and everything. Oh, Tommy's got her mask ready. So I love this one. But again, the whole series is a great series, especially when, as a school social worker, I'm talking about emotion regulation and emotional intelligence. And she has a whole much more like A Little Spot of Happiness.
Aww.
So again, as you can see, the whole thing is about Spot. So the Spot wears a mask. Now this Spot is about happy. And so there's a whole bunch of different books of different emotions. I just grabbed the happiness one. But there's one about anger. There's one about sadness, anxiety, confidence, kindness. So really building that emotional intelligence in your younger kids, helping them with that vocabulary. A lot of times with my students, they can name like 3 emotions. They're like happy, mad, and sad. That's it. So really helping kids get the right words for emotions and explaining what those emotions are. So really like, what is anxiety? What is being peaceful? What's confidence? And explaining these things. And again, I love using books because again, it's a little abstract for kids. It's not directly at them. And so they can do a lot of self-reflection and be like, oh, it's like this one time that happened to me. And they can really start to pull that story into their own life. And it's so fantastic when you see a kid start to make connections through one of these books. So I really recommend the Diane Adler Spot series here. So
Diane Adler Spot series. And have you checked, Caitie? Do we have that at KDL?
Yes, because I had to check one out on Friday myself because I didn't have the one I needed. So yes, I know it is. I can't say all of the books are at KDL, but I do know that at least one was at KDL that I could pick up on Friday.
Terrific. So check them out. Okay, Spot's bouncing back to Tommy now. I know you've got one in the wings. What have you got?
No, I've got them sitting right here. They're stacked in the order. I'm ready to go. Caitie and I have actually talked about in the past, like when nostalgic, like what were books we read when we were kids. And one of the ones that I read all the time was Babysitter's Club.
Oh.
And I absolutely loved it because there is a character named Claudia Kishi who is Japanese American. I grew up in rural Michigan, way up north. I'm half Japanese. There is so little representation of Asian folks just in general and like a positive light in literature, especially when we were kids. But to have like this kind of like funky, artistic, like fun girl who was like doing all of the things like in a young adult novel was just like the greatest. So one thing that I've really focused on this last year is diversifying my library. So this one came out. Isaac.
Oh, I love that.
Oh, this was the book I needed as a child.
And it's Eyes That Kiss in the Corners.
Eyes That Kiss in the Corners by Joanna Ho. Oops, sorry. I'm going to put it right here. I just love the message of absolute empowerment that flows through this book. The little kiddo she feels super different, and she's, upset that she looks different than her peers, and it makes her upset. And it's just like this whole thing about like, no, I look like my mom, and my mom is the greatest. And I look like my grandma is the greatest. And I look like my sister, and I love my sister so much. So, I wish that I would have had that as a kid. So it is wonderful. Please go pick it up as soon as possible. I can guarantee you KDL probably has many copies of this.
Oh, yes, I've seen that.
I cannot imagine that you don't. So
I love that cover. It is so important for kids who come in the library to see both windows and mirrors. Mirrors so they can see someone that looks just like them, and windows so they can see people who look different too, and get stories about both. It's very important to have both those things. So I'm glad we have them now. I'm so sorry we did not have them when you needed them.
It's okay. Now we do. We've got the next generation is going to have a whole slew of different characters that they're going to be exposed to. So I'm like so excited for that. So way to go, Joanna Ho. And that was a beautiful book. I'm very excited.
And we're bouncing back to Caitie. One sec, Caitie. There you go.
All right. So again, I also have everything set up. I have it like organized.
We're so prepared.
So the next one I want to talk about, it's another series, but I only grabbed one. And I know that this is at KDL. But this is a great series because, again, it talks about some different levels of emotions or social issues. And I'm talking about The Bad Seed.
Oh, I love that cover. I've never actually opened it, but I've shelved it.
Yeah, so The Bad Seed, it's by Jory John, illustrated by Pete Oswald. So there's also the Good Egg, the Cool Bean, the Couch Potato. So there's like a whole bunch of them. But I chose to just kind of showcase The Bad Seed because as a school social worker, I tend to work with more of the angry kids or the challenging kids, the ones that tend to get the reputation and they think that they're bad. They may have been through a lot. They may have had some traumas like the Seed has had. The Seed definitely has experienced some trauma. And so what I like is that the book does talk about trauma and how he's not a bad seed. He's just been through some bad things. And so it's a really great way you can use it with either kids who are considered the bad seed in the class, or you can use it with other kids who are like, well, why is he doing that? And it's a really great book to talk about that social aspect because there are no bad seeds. It's one of those bad things happen, but there are no bad seeds. So again, love the whole series. Big fan of the illustration. I feel like that's always going to be a thing. If there's not good illustrations, I'm not buying it. But yes, The Bad Seed is such a great one. And kids love the Good Egg. They love the Couch Potato and the Cool Bean. They love these theories. So if you haven't read this with your family or your students yet, I highly recommend it. So you can talk about stuff.
Is it a good read aloud?
It's a great read aloud. Great. It is a great read aloud. It's one of those read alouds that I definitely you get some interaction with the students because they'll be like, oh, that's like this or that's like this. And so I really like it. There's a part in here where the Speed gets spit out and they go patooey. And the kids always really get excited when I go patooey. They think it's just hilarious that I would do that. So Bad Seed. Bad
Seed. Okay, we're patooing it back over to Tommy.
10 out of 10 will recommend all of those books. Love all of them, Caitie. This is why we get along, though. Makes a lot of sense. Okay, well, speaking of epic illustrations, let's bring it back home. Let's talk about the Chronicle, The Mysteries of Harrisburg by Chris Van Allsburg. Okay, so here comes my speech brain. A lot of times with the older kiddos, I'm like, what am I going to do? Because, the little kiddos, I'm like, here, we have toys and we do all these things or whatever. And older kiddos can be a little more reluctant when it comes to like coming to speech, to doing their speech stuff, blah, 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 all of that stuff. This book is epic in getting kids to produce language. If you're not familiar with this book, really, it's a series of just very strange pictures with a tiny little caption. So this one says, "Under the rug, 2 weeks passed and it happened again." What a great thing for like starting conversation with a child about, what do you think? What happened? What a great like writing prompt to help with expressive like written language. I love this book so much. I used to teach English before I was a speech pathologist. I used to use this in my class. But I definitely use it in speech too, especially now that Halloween is approaching. They are kind of a little on the creepy side, but not like scary, like, I'll just do one more. I can't not. What is this? What's going on?
Yeah.
It's wonderful for facilitating language production and problem solving and creative thinking and all that stuff. Love that book so much.
And love Chris Van Allsburg as a local author.
Mm-hmm.
And hasn't he been, Caitie, to East Grand Rapids branch?
I believe so. Don't quote me on that, but I believe so. But again, he's a local hero. He's fan favorite. You ask any millennial, and we all Jumanji. Like, it's one of those, like, the book, the movie, we all knew it. Mm-hmm. So yeah, that's right. When as soon as I saw the cover, I knew it was Chris Van Allsburg. So
mm-hmm.
Yay,
magical.
So it's my turn now, right?
Yes, it is.
Okay. So I'm going to mix it up, and I'm going to go to an adult book now. So
ooh, look at you.
One of the questions that I get a lot about is, what can I do as an adult to better understand stuff? So back when we were talking about the bad seed and the fact that he went through some trauma, I mean, getting chewed up and spit out, that's pretty traumatic.
Yes, I would think so.
So one of the books that I recommend, and this is any human being, I really recommend this book, not just educators or parents, but anyone. The book is The Body Keeps the Score. See, Tom, this is why we work so well together. So this book, it's for quick PSA, I have ADHD and I cannot read nonfiction. So I listen to all my nonfiction. So I get my ebooks or my e-audio books from the library, listen to it in my car ride into work. But The Body Keeps the Score talks about trauma and how it actually affects our body and how, like, the long-term effects from trauma. And it actually also does talk about effective trauma treatment in therapy. So this is a great book. If you yourself experience trauma, if your loved one has, if your students have, I really recommend this. I think that this should actually be required reading for all educators, because you're going to have students who are traumatized, and this will help put things into context about, like, oh, that's why they do that. So again, it's The Body Keeps the Score. It's by Bessel van der Kolk. I always have to do that very slowly. And again, it's about the brain, mind, and body and the healing of trauma. So,
and not just for kids with trauma, but adults with trauma too.
Yes, absolutely. Like, I mean, this is a book for anyone who works with anybody, whether it's your husband, your wife, your students, your sister, your parents. This is a great book so that you can kind of understand what's going on. To me, this is like the social worker Bible. Most of us are like, this is the book that once you read this, it kind of just changes how you see a lot of things when you're talking to different people.
Okay. See, sometimes when people talk about books, it makes me immediately, okay, I've got to put a hold on that book right now.
It's a good one.
I feel like I need that one.
Book Talk has kind of messed up my holds, because I have a lot of books on holds right now from Book Talk. So I totally understand.
Okay, Tommy, back to you.
I wasn't going to talk about this one, but Caitie brought up that one. So now I got to talk about, I don't have it physically with me,
That's
but
okay.
Caitie brought it up. If we're talking about trauma and the body's ability to hold on to it, I'm also going to recommend a book called My Grandmother's Hands by Resmaa Menakem. That talks about generational trauma and how that's carried out through generations, specifically how that perpetuates racism and oppression and things like that. So super recommend that.
Is that an adult book, Tommy?
It is. That is an adult book. Since we switched gears a little bit. So I'd really recommend that. There is some somatic work that comes with it. One of my friends at my church actually let us in a read of that and did some somatic work along with the book. So it was, it's really good. It's really great.
Mother's Hands.
By Russ Mumenekam.
Now you get to go again, Tommy, because you kind of played off Caitie there.
Okay, yeah, sorry. So I'm taking this, like, we're going 180 now. And we're gonna go. This is what I read after I get home from work, because I'm gonna just take it there.
Okay.
So the first I want to talk about is the Brown Sisters series. So we have Get a Life, Chloe Brown. So, and then Take a Hint, Danny Brown by Talia Hibbert. This is the latest one that I've read. And then Eve, Chloe, and Danny. They're 3 sisters. It is really super fun, romance, adult fiction, a little on the spicier side, I would say. So just be aware of that if you're listening to the audiobook in your car going through a drive-through. I love this. Again, I'm going to go back to like representation. Like, the diversity of the characters in these books is phenomenal. They're just great, well thought out, fully rounded, realized characters. Also, they're hilarious. So super recommend anything in the Brown Sisters series. Take a Hint, Danny Brown is the latest one that I read by Talia Hibbert.
Nice. Now, would you say it's primarily like romantic or more of a family saga?
No. Romance, 95%. Modern romance, I'd say 5% would be like family stuff. Yeah, that would be where I'd put that.
Okay, good. Oh, so it's a fun, I see that as a summer read.
Yeah. Or just an after work read, because that's where your brain is at. Also, I just love them. Oh my gosh. Anyway.
Okay, Caitie, what you got?
So I'm going to piggyback off of her for a hot second, because I don't actually have the book either on this one, because I get all my books from the library, and I do a lot of ebooks. So I could show you my e-reader, but the book I'm currently reading to like unwind is from Book Talk. I blame Book Talk for this completely. It's the Dangerous Villain series by Katie Robert. It's a reimagine. Oh, there's my child who has decided to. No, I'm busy. Go away. Nope. So it is a reimagining of the. I'm going to talk through this. It's a reimagining where the villain of the Disney story ends up with the heroine or the hero. It's also on the spicy side. So warning on that. Again, if you're reading it and your children are around. But
or on audio.
I got some Book Talk, and it's one of those, like, it's like, I just can't put them down. Like, it's just one of those, I'm like, oh, and then I read the next
You
one.
need one of those. You really do, especially right now.
Yes, they're really quick reads, like 300 pages. I got mine through Hoopla. And so, again, it's one of those, it's a quick read. They are flawed characters, and I want to do a whole psychological analysis and maybe some trauma therapy with a couple of them, because they've got some trauma. But I definitely recommend that. However, the book I was going to show you this is a great one, again, for educators or parents. As a parent myself, I recommend it. It's called The Whole Brainchild. Let me see, make sure I get that in here. It's by Daniel J. Siegel and Tina Payne Bryson. This is part of a series. They also have No Drama Discipline, and then they also wrote The Yes Brain. So these are great books that if you're, it talks again about that whole brain child. And so my eldest has ADHD, and this book has been very helpful for us on how to work with him to address his needs and everything. Because again, it's not just talking about like in education, a lot of times we're like, you need to follow these very narrow expectations. And, you need to be, this is how you show us you're smart. However, this is going to show and help nurture your child's whole brain and help develop that brain so that they can be the best version of themselves, whether that's being good at math and science or that's being artistic or musical. So I really recommend this. Again, it's the Whole Brainchild, and then No Drama Discipline. Again, as a parent, no drama discipline.
That sounds good to all of us, I'm sure.
As I have a 5-year-old who decided that he needed my interventions on something. I'm really excited to find out what it was. Like,
did he just scream "I love you"? Was he screaming "I love you" at you all? Because that was.
Oh, I wish that's what he was screaming. He was screaming, "I need you." He was screaming, "I need you." So I'm guessing that there was a situation upstairs that I had to go deal with, because apparently mommy's the only one who can fix certain situations.
Well, that's kind of saying "I love you."
Yeah, I guess. I mean, it's just love language, I guess.
If nothing else, you're the best. That's what that says.
Okay, now I know these two beautiful women obviously love to read and read great books, but okay, I warned you guys this was coming. You each get one more apiece. So if you still have a stack, and I'll start with Tommy.
Yep, good. I'm ready.
Your last one.
Okay. I'm very into cozy mysteries. I can't handle the real ones, like the real scary ones. I can't do it.
No blood and gore.
No. Dublin Murder Squad, please no. Can't do it. Anyway, my latest favorite, and I've read several series that are cozy mysteries, but the latest one, I listened to it. It's a new series. It's called Arsenic and Adobo by Mia P. Manansala. It is fantastic. It's everything you want in a cozy mystery. There is a restaurant. There's a family. There's a murder. There's an accusation. It is, and then an unlikely character has to solve it. Oh, it's so good. And she talks about so much good food. Oh, it's everything you want.
Hold it up one more time, because that was a pretty cover too.
Yeah, I'm sorry. It is, sorry, I have to pull it up on my phone. Not my mileage. We don't want the mileage app. We want to have the Arsenic and Adobo.
And who's that by?
Mia P. Manansala.
I
don't know. There we go.
Like, if you cozy mystery lovers, grab it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Caitie, I know it's hard, but you're down to one.
Okay. So I looked through my whole stack. And again, I didn't even bring home all my books from work. But the one I'm going to end with is a kid's book. And I highly recommend this. Again, teachers, parents, anybody. It's Have You Filled a Bucket Today? And this whole series, it's about bucket fillers, and that's doing something kind, and bucket dippers who take something out. And it talks about, everyone has an invisible bucket, and everything you do either fills their bucket and your bucket by doing kind things, or you're dipping from their bucket. And people try to dip out of other people's buckets to fill theirs, and that doesn't work. It's never going to work. And so it's really focused on kindness, random acts of kindness or planned acts of kindness. And so again, as a public school educator, this is something that I really value, and I've read this to my students before, and they're really good at coming up with ideas about what could fill buckets at school or at home. So again, it's Have You Filled a Bucket Today? A Guide to Daily Happiness for Kids. It's by Carol McLeod, illustrated by David Messing, and there is a whole bunch of books in this series. So this is the original one, but there's ones about like A to Z, and gives you a whole alphabet list of ideas. There's one involving a dog and a cat. So there's just a whole bunch of different renditions of it. And I really love this for just teaching that basic kindness and respect for all human beings.
Perfect way to end. I want to thank you both for filling my bucket today and filling the bucket of everyone who's listening and giving us great reads to help keep them full. Thank you so much. Everybody, please come back and watch me again next Tuesday. And until then, keep reading.
Thanks for having us, Penny.
Yes, thank you so much.
You tell me and Caitie.